Oh, it has indications on there where
The annotations are on the side.
Yeah, but it's.
so this, the
yeah, that's what
annotations
this
are on the side,
It's the same one.
so. you know-
It's the same thing that's on, okay, yeah, it's the same thing that's on the town
This is the works. I don't feel bad.
So you don't have
I feel pretty good. Glenn is not a member of the RTC anymore, but he gave me a call. Yeah, I see that. I haven't talked to Glenn in so long. It's always nice to talk to him, you
So
know?
what must be sent it to them?
Well, the same people,
Copies of the
the same people.
I think they
And that
have
bothers me. The-
Right?
The full.
They're about the charter.
Is this in red?
It is not. This is what this has. This doesn't have red. This has some red
Salute,
stuff
you
in
can take
there.
mine.
I've told you to print it, and your computer wouldn't print it.
Funny thing. My computer doesn't print that. It prints this, but it doesn't print
I
that.
know,
So,
So you can't print the red
We have to have word.
I don't know why.
I do.
In the future, I'll
And I do have a color printer, and I had all my cartridges.
Oh,
I
well,
didn't know that.
she must have it printed, it did disallow change, it's still in there. It's just-
Yeah, there was just a couple of things I, oh, it's in the
right.
And then I got that.
If
Carly,
they PDF it,
I'm very sorry.
you should be able to do it. I don't know if it's an assistant yet,
Well, I
Well,
but in the future, I'll PDF red
That's
lines.
good.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were having that problem.
Okay, we were able to work through it the other night.
Yeah, I didn't know that you
Looking
were
around.
working with red lines.
You were looking at the annotated copy, I didn't have that. But as long as we were going by section, it was easy to make.
We didn't make complex
get
changes,
a
so
little bit friendly, like first aid.
I would have gotten dressed up for this. But I can actually genuinely say your lawyer is a country lawyer.
that's right. That's good. I was dressed that way today, man. I wanted to change it
Yeah.
so bad.
Hey, did you like the music?
My case.
Yeah, I'm still getting through it. Yeah, so I have to. Funny thing, it's sort of like a music thing. I was with a lot of my music relatives.
Oh, that's great.
So they have this compilation album that they put up. They said that it's this thing, this movement is moving up the charts.
Seriously?
Unbelievable. But we're talking about, we're talking maybe about the blues charts. So I don't know. There is an agenda, which was published, but I didn't make copies of it. It was noted, but I gotta work off this. It's a very simple agenda if you wanna look at it. It's only three.
I'll write it down as we do it.
Or take a picture of it and send it to them.
I don't have my phone.
Steve, what kind of band are you?
My band is we do a lot of coverage, but I've done original.
That's all original.
That's all original. That's all original.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's all original, and so we do cover, they do our music as well, but it's like the 60s. We, 67, 89, do a lot of Warren Zevon, Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Travel Wilburys, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The 60s might have been, I don't know, the 70s, the 90s.
I do Bob Dylan's Christian music, you know. One of my favorite songs, Gotta Serve Somebody, Gotta Serve Somebody. We're playing, we have a very big gig coming up in September, playing the Norwalk Oyster Festival, which is a big venue, so that's a lot of fun. Most of the time we play little bars.
Where can I listen to this?
I'll give you some, I got a CD in the car, a couple of CDs.
I'd like to hear.
Yes.
It's 7:02.
Okay. Sorry, we're talking about other things.
No, it's not.
All right, call this meeting to order. I want to thank all of you for, oh yeah, silence your cell phones, I guess, yes. So I want to thank all of you for coming here tonight. Appreciate your interest. So the purpose of this meeting is a public hearing. Whoever wants to talk.
Sign up sheet, you want me to get it to you?
Yeah, there is a sign-up sheet. If you've signed up and you want to talk, but I was going to say, please identify yourself and
Anybody else need
then
to
come
sign
up
up?
and.
No, I already signed up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. I got four people who signed up, and so I'll go down this list. I don't want to, if anybody else wants to say anything, please please feel free. Mark Bancroft. Thank you.
Evening, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say, as the chairman of a Charter Revision Commission, I understand the tasking that you're tasked with. It's enormous, it's tireless, and in the end, you'll have a great impact on the town. So for that, thank you very much. I came to talk tonight about a change that I'd like to see made, and it deals with the town clerk and town tax collector as being elected positions. And I think that this commission should examine thoroughly whether or not they should be elected or not elected and made a permanent staff member. I bring with me 3 terms as the mayoral assistant to 3 separate mayors of the town, local town here. So I have an in-depth knowledge of the operating of both tax collector and town clerk. They're positions that have grown over the years into vital positions with little error, a room for error. You don't have a 6-month or 7-month period to be elected and then grow into the position. It's a position that requires extensive knowledge, extensive certifications on both of them. Both of them require these things. Years of training, and should not be left to an election. Nothing against the person that's elected. They simply don't have the knowledge to hit the decks running. They need to know what's going on, both positions. Town clerk, imagine if you elect somebody, you have an election in February, another election, and they miss something. It's catastrophic. It's, you know, the professional understands town records, understands elections, all the requirements with elections. They understand deeds, all those things. And they're constantly going through the training. And this isn't training that you can get in 4, 5, 6 months or a year. Certification alone is 2.5 years for a town clerk, 3 years, I think, for a tax collector. So it's not an easy position to fill. I think our town clerk, the town clerk's office, run exceptionally. Hear nothing but good comments from the real estate lawyers that I know that deal with the town. Everybody I talk to that talks to it, and I brought it up because this was coming up, they always get good, friendly, satisfactory service. You know, so it's not, and why is it that way? Because they've been there a long time, they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing. Tax collector, let me tell you about your tax collector. 99.5 collection rate. Now, do you know what that means? 0.5% of the taxes that are due are not collected. 99.5 are collected. How did that get there? Not through an elected person who's just learning. It's from a person who has been there for a long time. It's a life job for them that they want to do. So changing every 4 years, you're going to fall into the realms of the Hartfords and the New Havens and some of the local towns with an 89% collection rate. Now you say to yourself, okay, what's that really mean? What that really means is the tax levy in the town, and I won't bore you with a lot of these numbers, is like 81% of the budget. So that's the taxation. 81% of our spending, our revenue, comes from the tax collector. So imagine if the new elected tax collector does not get the 99.5 in an $86 million budget. That's a lot of money if they drop down to 94, 95%. So it's only through having professionals. We have a professional EDC person, we have a professional this, and a professional public works director. These 2 positions, critical, the face of the town to many, many people, and they should be professional positions, not elected positions. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Cindy?
On that happy note.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Ladwig, and I was the town clerk in Stonington for 24 years before retiring in January 2022. Prior to being town clerk, I was the assistant town clerk for 19 years. Sally Duplessis and I had the benefit of a long learning curve. We had learned all aspects of the office of the town clerk. I know of no one living in the town of Stonington except for one person who doesn't want the job that is knowledgeable, experienced, and certified to be a town clerk. I believe that the town clerk's position should be changed to a hired professional job instead of elected. The position of town clerk has become increasingly more complicated over the years. The town clerk's office has many duties and responsibilities: land records and protecting the integrity of the title of people's homes and property, vital statistics, issuing marriage licenses, dog licenses, sporting licenses, and most importantly, elections. Election laws are ever-changing, and the town clerk needs to be knowledgeable and well-versed on the subject, or could be fined by the state for not complying. Now is the time to change the position to be a hired professional job. As you know, town clerk Sally Duplessis will be retiring in 1.5 years. If the current staff doesn't live in Stonington, they can't run for the job if it continues to stay as an elected position under the current charter. But if changed to a hired professional job, either could apply and be interviewed along with other qualified individuals. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Would you be considered a qualified applicant if we?
Expletive deleted.
Good to see you again, by the way.
It's nice to be seen.
If nominated, I will not seek the election.
Carly,
I guess we have to come over here. For the record, my name is Carlene Donarumo. I live in Pawcatuck. And in my professional life, I was a business educator. So I did a lot of proofreading of papers and typing. And a couple of things struck me when I read some of the red line things. And I just wanted to bring them to your attention. They're minor, but worthy of consideration. I'm talking basically about Chapter 8, about administrative departments. If you want to get that, it's on page 22 of your red-lined copy or blue-lined copy as I have it. Thanks to Lynn. It's the first line, B1, qualifications. It says each of the administrative departments' directors. I don't think the word departments should be plural. I think it should be each of the administrative department directors, not departments, plural.
Good.
Could that be an apostrophe S?
Oh, you already have the apostrophe S.
No, but I mean, no, in my departments is not apostrophe S.
I know it's not there, but I don't believe it should be.
Okay?
But of course, you might find someone else who disagrees. And going on to 3A and 3B, where you have added 3A, it says, by the majority vote shall advise and consent on the appointment. That word consent kind of struck me kind of funny. I'm wondering if it should have been consent to or a consent on, you have on. But I just don't know what you were trying to get with that wording. So advise and consent. Do you mean comment? Is that what you meant? Comment on?
Agreement is what we meant.
Well, I found it confusing. You might want to think about that word if you want to change it or not. So that happened in 3A and also in 3B. The Board of Finance, the majority shall advise and consent on. It just doesn't strike me correctly. And the other thing that I found extremely confusing and very inconsistent is you see the words select man, select person, and selectmen throughout the whole document, and I find that very confusing.
I thought we fixed that.
I thought we did too.
Well, I think you better do a control find and find all those places where maybe some of them should be changed. That's it.
The only, so let me ask you this, going back to your comments on advice and consent, what the purpose of it is that the Board of Selectmen have the final say.
Right.
And so how would you change the word consent?
It's consent too.
Consent
It's
to?
just a bad proposition.
Dangling participle?
Yeah,
Consent to?
yeah, I think the word "to" could have been added there and probably.
Okay, that's
what you
fine,
said.
as opposed to consent on, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you
You're
so much.
You want your copy back?
No, you can have it. To fix it.
And Rick Newton, please.
In general, I agree with all the changes you made in your draft document that you're forwarding to, the major changes with the term for the selectmen and the changes in clerking. I don't need to go into those anymore. I did find some other things that I'll bring up. I don't know whether you want to try and fix them for this revision, or I understand you might be doing another revision. Section 2.7, term limits. The second sentence says that as the effective date of this revision for the members of the Board of Finance and Education, their terms are considered the first term. Why are you resetting every time you deal with charter? It doesn't seem like you need to reset. If you're going to reset every time you do a charter, you really don't need term limits. Section 6.2, 8 constables, town officers. I just think they ought to be eliminated. I have yet to find
I'm
it.
sorry, Rick, I don't understand the point. Explain to me, I'm not sure what.
2.7?
Yeah.
It says, as of the effective date of this charter revision for the members seated in the boards of finance and education, the term they are currently serving shall be considered their first term. So that's a
the
reset.
previous charter revision.
That's a reset.
Yeah, you're right.
So that should probably read to the date of the last charter revision, so it's only effective then, or at some point you take the sentence out.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that situation doesn't exist anymore anyway, so it doesn't need to be there at all. Because.
Arguably, that is correct.
So
You could just
maybe
take the
just
last
strike
sentence
it.
out.
Yeah,
But we start adding at this point.
right, and we'll have I have a response for you, but please continue with what you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, back to the constables. I've yet to find someone that tells me what a constable does.
I'll see that.
And
Some towns they do.
if you're going to keep it in there, add something to add for the independent unaffiliated. So you would add 4 more. Section 6.3, state mandated officials, says that each state election, and then item C, 22 justices of the peace for each party. That's not in agreement with your ordinance. The ordinance requires 66. That was changed in June of 1996. And the JP process is in the presidential election, not in the state election. And they're not really elected unless they get too many in a party and they have to go to a primary. But other than that, they're just all appointed. And we'll never have 66 JPs in town, but that's what the ordinance calls for. Section 6.4 and 6.5, Board of Education, Board of Finance. The wording in there is just confusing. Everything after "to wit," where it talks about these elections from November 99, November 2001, November 2017, November 2019. I think that could be cleared up so people know what that they're actually voting on or how they vote. In 7.1, appointed boards, commissions, and agencies shall report in writing to the first selectman on their activities budget compliance, not less frequently than quarterly. I don't know of any board that does that. I don't know whether you want to keep that in there or not. It doesn't seem like you really need it if it doesn't happen. Alternate, some boards are required by state statute to file reports, and you could just say that the boards comply with general statute requirements. In section 7, 7.4 to 7.20, we list all the different boards. It seems it's selective. Why aren't they all lit? Every board that has an ordinance should be on that list. The one I particularly want to see on there is the Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board, but there's 6 others that we've created ordinances for that aren't on that list. So it should be all inclusive, or I don't know why you're selecting certain ones. And then finally, I'd like to.
Do you want us to answer that?
Oh,
As you're going, because most of this stuff is going to be in the Charter Revision Commission 2.0, we made a decision to deal with times of the essence matters now.
Yeah.
Right, so we consciously decided to ignore things we know that are in there that are contrary.
That's why I said at the beginning that
Well,
you could do it.
appreciate your comments anyways. And that was the response that I was going to give you.
And I think an important point also was that the charter is the controlling document and not the ordinances. So I think we have to be aware of this, that this is a very important document. And so whatever's not here or whatever the directions are here should be followed by the commissions and boards and so on, unless it's revised.
Okay. And finally, new language, I'd like to put in. Our selectmen don't have the ability to remove appointed commissioners. And I think that's an important thing. If they appoint someone and then the person never shows up to a meeting, it's hard to get a quorum sometimes. And I provided recommendation, Madison, Connecticut has a fairly short one, that removal clause that you might want to look at. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you need one?
I'll take one. We should keep this on the record for your next public hearing. Just very similar.
Yeah.
A lot of good ideas. Can I just say something, Mr. Chair?
Please.
I normally don't talk at public hearings, but I'm Steve Mendick. I'm their chair. I know I look like a country lawyer tonight. But the last point you made is a really important point, and removal powers are, Madison's not the only town. A lot of towns have that ability. And what you want to be able to do is you want to make sure that there's a standard for removal, that you just don't have a capricious action by the mayor or the first selectman or the mayor of the board of selectmen. So you want to have some standards, and you can also enunciate those standards not only in the charter. You can add to those standards by ordinance. The point that was being made by the commissioner before is we found this in a couple of cases. In fact, we're reverse engineering one of our boards and commissions to comply with an ordinance. It should be the other way around. The ordinance never should pass. The advice should have been, the charter sets it. If you want to change the composition of a board or commission, you need to do it by charter, unless the charter gives you that ability to make a modification by ordinance. So I just wanted to...
That's the same situation with the justices of peace.
Exactly. Well, the JP situation is exactly that situation. Yeah. That should be complying with the charter. Whether the charter provision should be changed is a different question. Whether that doesn't meet the realities of the situation is a different question. Same thing is true of the constables. I think they will probably look at some of these issues in 2.0, but this is a very thoughtful piece. I just wanted to say that one of the good ideas in there.
And I thank you, and I'm sure that we probably will at some point look at some of those. What it's our intention to do is to do something much more limited because of time-sensitive nature of some of the requests, and hopefully we can get them to the voters for their decision this election process. All right, those are all the people who signed up, but come right on update. You want to, I can sign, yeah, but I'll sign you in, I know who you are.
I didn't think I was gonna ask questions.
Oh,
I know
boy,
you-
we've awakened the beast.
I know that the idea of this tonight is these expedited items that you want to get done before time runs out, so they won't be effective. I was just wondering if you could tell us some of the other things that you're looking at this point. I know I had mentioned a couple of things at the first meeting. I was just curious as to other things that you're going to look at as you go forward from this timeliness.
So, I want to give you the best answer possible, but not limit us in any way.
Yeah.
We've looked at things such as making the entire charter gender neutral to address some of the concerns that you had, Carleen. For example, if there are some places in this document that have select person or select board as opposed to board of selectmen or selectmen or what have you, it's because we started looking at that and we said that it's going to take a whole heck of a lot longer to go through and rectify all of this. And rather than do that now, the best idea would be to deal with these limited issues that have the most relevance now and lose a great deal of their relevance if we wait until next year. So that's one of them. Apparently there's an issue between the department heads and director of departments, and apparently that has a significance in terms of how much money we pay them or something like that. We have to rectify some of those issues. Some of the things that Rick brought up tonight are something that we very may well look at when we go forward, or if we go forward again, if we're reconstituted, and I hope that we are. We've looked at perhaps making this process something that happens every 10 years, or mandated in the charter, something that happens every 10 years, as opposed to when somebody thinks it's a good idea or somebody raises their voice enough that it gets done. So those are some of the issues that we've looked at, and I'm sure I'm doing that off the top of my head, but we've looked at a lot of issues, but decided this might be the best way to do it for now.
One big one I was thinking of was the change of the form of government. Wondering if that's going to be on the table moving forward.
So when a charter commission is reconstituted or reappointed, it's something, everything is on the table once again, okay? It's something that we have not decided to address this particular time. However, we've decided what our recommendation will be, or what I believe our recommendation will be, is that the term of the first selectman is increased to four years as opposed to 2 years, to attract better qualified people who are willing to give up that portion of their life, and perhaps as a career decision, rather than have to run every 2 years and put their life on hold for 2 years while they're selectmen, and then rerun again if they, so.
Will you guys still, is it going to have to be a whole new commission after this?
Technically, the answer to your question is yes. However, we've all indicated our willingness, and it would be our honor to continue to serve.
That would make sense.
Right. The point here is to get these time-sensitive issues on the table before it's too late, because they lose their relevance. They really do. And it's the decision. Whatever happens, even though it goes through this process, it goes to the Board of Selectmen. The decision is for the voters. And you know something? It's something that we should give them that power to do. If they want to approve this, the changes that we suggest, that's great. If they don't, well, I suppose they'd be back on the table again.
I think Ray, too, one point we want to make is under section 8-1B2, We spent a lot of time with this to be very clear that those positions, the town clerk and tax collector, will have a panel of their peers. They'll be asked technical questions. They'll go through the recruiting process. It's not just an appointment as it is for a committee person. It's based upon their abilities to know the job as any other personnel position would be. And I think that being worded there was one of the items that we spent quite a bit of time with and wanted that to be very clear so everyone felt very comfortable that it was based on knowledge and someone who has attained those abilities so they can come into those offices and be functional. So I think that's very important for the town.
We took great pains to deal with that issue, and we want to make sure, and hopefully the point gets across to whomever is going to be acting on this, that we're not talking about a political appointment. What we're talking about is a professional, a hired professional position, a well-qualified position after going through a interview process, making sure their qualifications meet whatever the standards are. At the end of the day, the Board of Selectmen are the ones that finally approve it. It's they consent to it, but before that, it's not a political appointment. So, anything else? Anybody else? Yes, Sally.
Hi, I'm Sally DePlease, the current town clerk, and I just want to respond to Rick as far as the JPs. Currently, according to the Secretary of State, and we're governed by their statutes, there are 22 JPs that can be appointed by the major parties. So Democrats and Republicans can appoint up to 22 JPs, and the town clerk can appoint up to 22 unaffiliated and minor party people for JPs, which equals 66.
And I'll also tell you, to sort of continue to address your question and to respond to something that you said, we did look at the issue of constables and whether they should be, but it's something that we've decided not to deal with this go-around. But it's, I understand, I sort of feel the same way that you do. But you know something, I'm told that in some towns that they do serve a function, and there are some functions that they could serve other than what happens here. But having been a constable, I understand.
Right, can I just address the constable? Bill Sturber from Elm Street.
Thank you so much.
One thing that constables still do if you dig into state statute is if there's a vacancy on the Board of Selectmen and it isn't filled within 30 days by the board and then 60 days by I think somebody else, at some point the seat gets filled by the elected members of the party that held the seat. So in that situation, the constables being elected officials would have a vote on how to fill the seat.
Thank you, I appreciate that. We're not doing anything with the constable. We're not doing away with them, although we thought about that.
They are the appendix of town meeting form of government.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anybody else? All right, hearing nothing, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion that we adjourn this meeting, and then we'll go into the next meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. All right, anybody else? Yes, the duration.
That's tough.
All right, let me get those.
No, unfortunately.
All right, I call the special meeting of the Stonington Charter Revision Commission to order, and I would entertain comments on what we just heard from the public, if any.
I just think there's two changes in consent, to consent to.
Yes?
And a lot of the other comments that we heard are basically dealing with things we're going to tackle in the next go-round.
Yeah. Do you want to take the S off the department as well?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
the clerical.
All right. And would you check about the select person?
I will check
select board?
that. I think there might have been an earlier version. It was carried through in an earlier version, but I think I got them all in this last version. But I'll double check it before we file tomorrow.
All right.
There's a couple of other minor things, if I may.
Please.
In section 6-1, there's a reference, and actually the town clerk is the one who brought it to our attention, thank you very much. The diligence of the town clerk should be noted. In 6-1, there's a parenthetical that talks about elected officials, and it includes the line, except the town clerk, under our proposal. What's that? That should be stricken, because the town clerk will not be an elected official. There's no exception because the town clerk's not an elected official, so that should be deleted. The next issue is an issue that came up. I brought this up. I talked to the chair this morning about it. On the Commission on Aging, we were reducing the number from 12 to 9. And as I was going through it, thank goodness I did, I wanted to look, I was concerned about transition and how we get from here to there. And it turns out we were pretty close to it based on the current membership and expiration dates. But to extrapolate it out would be extremely difficult. So somebody actually came up with a notion, if we reduce it to 9, we can get there by attrition, because we're going to have a number of terms that end at the end of this year. There's a vacancy, it won't be filled, and you'll therefore then be able to come to your 9-member commission without having to do a massive transition provision. So I recommend that we go to 9 members as opposed to 7 members, so that we don't have a problem with the transition. If that's okay with everybody.
Is there any other way to do it? Because their issue, the reason for the request was they can't fill it.
The problem was that some of the people whose terms are up, if we were to do it, are some of the people who actually show up at meetings. So the thing that you're trying to remedy wouldn't be remedied, you'd be losing some of the members. If you let their terms expire, didn't reappoint some of the members who are going to be up at the end of this year to bring it down to 7, you would lose members who are actually regular attendees.
And then we might be able to deal with it in 2.0 anyway, right?
We might be able to look at it 2.0, but for the time being, to make the move, I would recommend that we go to 9 instead of 7. So we are able to address it to some extent, then we can look forward from there. Because I can do it. I can develop a stagger, but it's a complicated, mildly complicated formula. So is 9 okay with you?
So we would still be at 9 and 3 alternates?
9 and 3 alternates. So you're reducing it by 3, plus another 3 alternates. The last issue is a minor issue that the chair actually brought to my attention, and we would have made sure it was fixed, thank God. Because one of the things I asked as part of your resolution to allow council to continue to make scrivener's corrections throughout this process, so that, and I'll ask the Board of Selectmen for the same thing, so that as we go toward publication, if we find some more errors or erratas, we can fix them without a vote. So if you give that privilege to me and the town attorney, I would say the town attorney and myself should be able to make erratas. I will report them to you to make sure that they are erratas and not substantive changes. But the change we need to make is that this should be effective after the election on November 5th, 2024. That section needs to be changed right now. It reverts to the 2015 date. It would be kind of a nullity. The statute permits that it would take effect upon adoption anyhow, but we should put it in the charter. So those are my minor glitch changes.
Very good. Any other comments?
Do we need to make a motion about your retention?
I think you should make a motion to make the minor changes that we all talked about this evening.
I would move that we make the minor changes that we've already discussed.
Including allowing council to look at erratas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was going to be a second motion.
Oh, whatever you want to do.
I'll second his motion.
All those, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so
So then a
voted.
motion to allow Steve to continue as scrivener to make changes as needed.
And the effective date.
And
Have the effective date in there too.
Well, that was one of those.
Yes.
Included in the first one.
That was included in the.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion's been made that we allow our attorney to be able to make Scrivener changes as deemed necessary. Those changes are basically typographical, and to have the document conform. So is there a second to that?
Second.
Any, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Okay. Now, I think we need to, I need to entertain a motion to pass our final report.
This is still technically your draft report.
So
We have to amend the draft report, though.
No. You'll approve the draft report as amended throughout this process.
Okay.
His motion would be to approve the draft report. You want me to explain that just for a second, so everybody understands it? The way the process works is we're finishing up the first phase of your project. I'm not talking about 1.0 versus 2.0, but the first phase of this charter revision. You send a draft to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen is going to look at this. The Board of Selectmen met with you last week. We know that they understand what's coming over. They can deem it to be a final report if they have no changes that they want to make. Technically, they can make recommendations, send it back to you, that you would put in a final report. So this is the draft report. If they approve it next week, they'll approve it as a final report, and then your commission will be terminated at that moment. So I just want to point that distinction out under the law.
So I entertain a motion to forward the draft report as amended this evening to the Board of Selectmen.
I would make the motion to forward our draft report with the amendments we made this evening to the Board of Selectmen for their approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you so much. So, I appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate all of you being here tonight. And the next meeting, I think, is going to be with the Board of Selectmen on the 24th when they review this. And this will be forwarded tomorrow morning. Very good. I've entertained a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you so much.